Welcome to today's deep dive. Have you ever felt like your brain is just racing ahead, like way faster than the world around you seems to move?
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe you're someone, like me sometimes, with just dozens of browser tabs open, juggling all these amazing ideas for projects that, well, let's be honest, often kind of fizzle out into what the author calls your digital graveyard.
Definitely sounds familiar.
Well, if any of that rings true, then you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're doing a deep dive into Augmented Minds, the AI playbook for neurodiverse learning by John R. Saunders.
Great book.
Yeah, our mission here is to really explore this pretty groundbreaking guide. It doesn't just talk about neurodiversity, it actually celebrates it. And it offers really practical AI-powered tools to, actually harness your unique cognitive strength. And Saunders hits you right away, like page one, with this really powerful, I'd say revolutionary premise. You are not broken, the system is.
That line is just fantastic, isn't it?
It really is. It just completely challenges that old assumption that neurodiverse learners are somehow, need fixing.
Yeah, it's such a refreshing place to start. And what's really compelling here is that this isn't just theory, right? It's a very pragmatic mix of neuroscience, AI, cognitive psychology, all specifically geared towards, yes, ADHD and autistic learners, but honestly, for anyone who feels their brain just operates a bit differently.
Like autodidacts, entrepreneurs.
Exactly. Or just anyone who feels like they're constantly swimming against the current in traditional systems.
I found that opening incredibly powerful, too. Saunders starts Augmented Minds with this really raw, personal story. He actually calls his own brain a war zone.
Yeah.
And he talks about how painful it was watching his own neurodiverse son struggle with, the pressures of traditional schooling. How does he use that personal angle to set up his main argument about these systems being flawed?
Well, it makes it immediately relatable, doesn't it? By sharing his own war zone experience and his son's struggles, he vividly shows how systems built for, let's say, neurotypical processing almost inevitably lead to masking, burnout, and, frankly, a lot of shame for people who think differently. But what's key is how quickly he pivots. He uses that struggle not to wallow, but to launch into this reframing. He basically says the whole deficit model, looking at neurodiversity as what's wrong, is fundamentally flawed. His core message is crystal clear. Different doesn't mean deficient, it means powerful, just in different ways.
I love that reframing. It flips the whole script immediately. So instead of seeing something like, say, distractibility as just a weakness, how does Saunders suggest we should understand it, maybe from a brain science perspective?
Exactly, that's the shift. He suggests reframing distractibility as enhanced environmental awareness. Think about it. Your brain is actively processing multiple streams of information at once. That's not a bug, he argues, it's a feature. For ADHD brains, for instance, he talks about irregular dopamine regulation, but not as a flaw. He describes it as creating a different kind of attention system, like a searchlight that scans widely, picking up broader patterns and making novel connections that a more focused spotlight attention might completely miss.
Ah, I see.
And this is what can lead to that enhanced creativity and also that incredible hyperfocus when something genuinely grabs your interest. It's about working with that neurology, not against it.
That makes a lot of sense. And what about autistic brains? How does he frame their unique strengths in the book?
Well, for autistic brains, he really highlights strengths like detailed processing, the ability for incredibly deep focus, enhanced pattern recognition, and very systematic thinking. And while the book definitely acknowledges things like sensory processing differences or social communication variations, the real emphasis is squarely on these cognitive strengths that often get overlooked or pathologized. And then he introduces something he calls the neurotype awareness model, which isn't just about sticking a label on yourself. He actually gives you concrete steps, almost like a self-discovery process, to map out your brain's unique patterns, like your energy peaks and troughs, your sensory triggers, your optimal ways of processing information.
Like building your own user manual.
Exactly. It's all about empowering you to create that personalized user manual for your own cognition. So you shift away from thinking, how do I fix my deficits, towards how do I strategically leverage my inherent strengths?
Okay, so once you've got a better handle on how your specific brain works, this is where, for me, it got really interesting. Part 2, the Augmented Learning framework. Saunders puts forward this idea of using AI not just as another app, but as an external executive function, like a cognitive prosthetic.
Yeah, it's a pretty bold idea.
It really is, suggesting AI can literally be a co-pilot for our brains. How does he see that actually playing out, like practically speaking?
It's fascinating. And he breaks it down into really usable applications.
Yeah.
He's essentially asking, look, if executive functions like planning, organizing, prioritizing, initiating tasks, if those are a challenge, why burn all your energy struggling with them? Why not outsource them to AI?
Outsource your executive
Right.
functions.
Imagine having an AI co-pilot that's brilliant at exactly those things that can sometimes overwhelm neurodiverse minds. So instead of, staring at a blank screen trying to structure your
That
thoughts,
doesn't take forever.
exactly, you can just do a brain dump, pour all your chaotic, messy, brilliant ideas into an AI assistant. No judgment. Like you could literally just ramble at it. Okay, thinking about a new service, maybe for small businesses, social media help, but also automation and courses, maybe video too. Just get it all out.
Okay, so you just unload the mental clutter, and then the AI cleans it up.
Precisely. The AI, especially the powerful large language models we have now, can take that jumble and structure it. It can help you prioritize, refine your thoughts, maybe even spot connections you missed. It can turn that ramble into, say, a coherent outline for a business plan, complete with actionable steps.
Wow.
It literally functions as your external executive support system, handling the planning, the scheduling, maybe even helping with follow-through reminders. For someone who might spend, a huge amount of cognitive energy just trying to get organized before they can even start the real work,
Yeah.
the AI takes that massive load off. It frees up your brain power for the stuff you're actually good at, the creative thinking, the problem solving.
Honestly, as someone whose brain often feels like a nonstop, slightly chaotic brainstorming session, that idea of an AI organizer sounds, well, almost too good to be true.
Isn't it?
And it's not just about organization, is it? He also gets into flow state engineering, which I liked because it pushes back against that unhelpful advice you always hear, like just focus harder.
Ugh. Yeah. That advice is rarely helpful, is it? Especially if your brain doesn't work that way.
Right. So what's Saunders' approach? It sounds more scientific.
It is. He introduces something he calls the 10-22 protocol. It's basically a structured routine for creating the optimal conditions for focus, for priming your brain for deep work.
Okay, 10-22. How does it work?
So first, you take just 10 seconds to consciously clear your immediate physical space and your digital space of obvious distractions. Close tabs, put your phone away, whatever it takes.
Okay, quick cleanup.
Then 20 seconds. Use these 20 seconds to very clearly frame your specific goal for the upcoming work session. What exactly do you want to accomplish? What does success look like for this burst?
Got it. Set the intention.
Yep. Next, 2 minutes. You spend 2 minutes priming your brain with relevant context. Maybe quickly skim your notes, look at the last paragraph you wrote, review the brief, just load the relevant info into your working memory.
Okay, getting ready.
And only then, after those steps, do you dive into a focused 20-minute work sprint. Intense, focused effort for just 20 minutes.
Huh. That's incredibly structured, like a little pre-flight check for your brain. Does he give examples of how this works for people who struggle with, sitting down for hours?
Yeah, there's a great example in the book about a graphic designer named Sarah who has ADHD. She used to really struggle with client projects, right? They'd drag on for weeks because maintaining that consistent focus was just exhausting.
I can imagine.
But she started diligently using this 10-22 protocol, breaking her work down into these hyper-focused 20-minute chunks with the prep beforehand. And the result? She started completing the same quality of work in just days instead of weeks.
Wow, days instead of weeks.
Yeah. It's about leveraging the brain's capacity for intense engagement in shorter bursts, rather than fighting yourself trying to maintain focus for hours on end, which might not be your natural rhythm.
Okay, so we've got AI helping with the big picture organization and protocols like 10-22 for getting into focused work sprints. But what about those everyday moments, when your brain just gets stuck? Like impulsive loops or just being totally paralyzed by a decision?
Ah, yes, decision paralysis. The classic.
Totally. Saunders introduces some really practical, like instant mind hacks for this.
Wow.
And the one that really jumped out at me was the 10 seconds to freedom protocol. It sounds amazing, but also really hard to do when you're actually in that moment of feeling stuck or impulsive.
Right. Like, how do you make yourself do it?
Exactly. What's the secret to making that physical interruption and conscious choice actually work when your brain is just screaming at you to, I don't know, keep scrolling or just give up?
You've nailed the core challenge. And the genius of the protocol, I think, lies in how it works neurologically. It essentially hijacks your brain's pattern recognition system. So first step is recognition. You just notice the impulse or that stuck feeling. You become aware of it.
Okay, awareness first.
Then, crucially, the physical interrupt. You perform a specific, predetermined physical action. It has to be physical. Stand up, take 3 deep breaths, maybe touch your nose, walk to the window, something concrete. This action literally breaks the existing neural loop.
Ah, okay, like tripping a circuit breaker.
Exactly like a circuit breaker. That little physical action disrupts the automatic pattern. Then, in that tiny gap you've created, you make a conscious choice. You ask yourself a simple question. What would serve me best right now? And finally, action. You take the absolute smallest possible step forward in that better serving direction, even if it feels tiny. The physical interrupt is key because it creates a new pathway, diverting the brain away from its automatic, often unhelpful reaction.
That's a profound way to think about managing those moments. It's not about willpower, it's about rewiring the response.
Precisely. It's a mini intervention you perform on yourself. The book shares this really compelling case study of Mark, an entrepreneur with ADHD. He apparently had this pattern of starting projects with huge enthusiasm, but then abandoning them when things got tough or overwhelming. His completion rate was something like only 20%.
Ouch.
Yeah. But after he started consistently using the 10 seconds to freedom protocol in those moments of wanting to bail, he'd do the interrupt, ask the question, and choose to take just one small next step. His project success rate apparently jumped to 80%.
80%, just from that small intervention.
Seems so. It's about reclaiming choice in those critical moments where the default might be to just check out or switch tasks impulsively.
That's incredible. Okay, and the book also tackles something else many of us can relate to, cognitive load management. My brain definitely feels overloaded more quickly sometimes. How does Saunders see AI helping with that feeling, that extraneous load, the mental effort that comes from things just being confusing or poorly organized?
Yeah, this is another area where AI can be a game changer for managing cognitive load. He explains that AI can significantly reduce that extraneous load, the unnecessary mental work, mainly by simplifying complex information.
How so?
Well, imagine you've got a really dense research paper or a complicated article, and AI can summarize it, pull out the key bullet points, maybe even generate a concept map or a visual outline. It makes the core information much easier to digest.
Right, less effort just trying to understand the structure.
Exactly. Or think about routine decisions that drain your mental energy. AI can automate some of those. And for big, overwhelming projects, AI tools, especially those using task decomposition algorithms, can break them down into smaller, manageable micro steps.
Ah, okay.
So the goal is to ensure your valuable mental energy is spent on the actual thinking, understanding, and creating, rather than getting bogged down in just trying to organize the chaos or decipher poorly presented information.
So it's less about forcing your brain to cope with bad design and more about using AI to make the information and the task itself, well, less demanding.
That's a perfect way to put it. And he offers practical methods too, like the 3-2-1 method for daily planning, which is super simple, but effective.
Okay, what's that?
You just identify your 3 highest priorities for the day or week. Then 2 supporting tasks that directly help you make progress on those priorities. And finally, 1 quick win, something small you can knock out quickly to build momentum.
3 priorities, 2 supporting tasks, 1 quick win. I like that.
Yeah, it's manageable. And AI can even help analyze your bigger goals and suggest how to break them down into these 3-2-1 chunks, or even generate ideas for those supporting tasks.
That's useful. And speaking of unique brain features, the book talks a lot about hyperfocus, that intense state of concentration many neurodiverse people experience. But instead of treating it like something unreliable or even a problem to be managed, Saunders talks about how to weaponize it. What does he mean by weaponizing hyperfocus?
He basically sees hyperfocus as this incredible superpower.
Right.
But like any power, it's most effective when you can direct it intentionally. Weaponizing it means consciously setting up the conditions to optimize it and aim it productively, rather than just letting it randomly take over and maybe lead you down a rabbit hole for hours.
Okay, so how do you optimize it?
It involves several things. Environmental control is huge.
I know.
Really ruthlessly eliminating any potential interruptions. Time boxing is also key, setting clear start and end times for hyperfocus sessions to prevent burnout. Making sure the task aligns with your purpose or deep interest is crucial for triggering it. And importantly, planning for recovery afterwards. Hyperfocus is intense. You need to build in downtime.
So it's about consciously harnessing it, not just falling into it.
Exactly. It's about being the director of your focus, not just a passenger.
Is there an example in the book of someone doing this effectively?
Yeah, he tells the story of Jennifer, a software developer with autism. She used to have really inconsistent productivity, sometimes getting lost in coding for days, other times completely blocked or burnt out.
Sounds familiar for intense work.
Right, so she started scheduling her hyper-focus sessions deliberately during her peak energy times. But the crucial part was using AI beforehand to prep everything she needed. The AI would pull up relevant documentation, set up her coding environment, fetch code examples. Basically, it handled all the preparatory tasks that could derail her focus.
So the AI did the setup friction.
Exactly. And by doing this, scheduling the sessions and using AI for prep, she apparently increased her coding output by something like 300%.
300%.
Yeah. And get this, she did it while actually reducing her stress levels because she was finally working with her brain's natural rhythm, and the AI was handling the boring, potentially distracting setup stuff.
That's amazing. It really highlights building systems around your strengths. Which brings us to the bigger picture, right? Building sustainable systems. Saunders introduces this formula. Interest X, relevance S, autonomy S, mastery, sustained engagement. It's a bit academic sounding, but it makes intuitive sense. How does AI fit into boosting that formula?
Yeah, if we look at the bigger picture, AI can seriously enhance every single part of that equation. Take Interest AI can curate incredibly personalized content streams based on exactly what you're curious about, way beyond standard algorithms.
Okay.
For relevance, AI can help you explicitly connect new things you're learning to your existing knowledge or your personal goals, making those connections stronger. For autonomy, it allows for truly adaptive learning paths, letting you control the pace and style. And for mastery, AI can provide instant personalized feedback and track your progress in ways that really resonate.
So it turbocharges the whole learning process?
Essentially, yes. It helps you build what he calls your personal learning lab, which is about designing a completely customized learning environment and system that is tailored perfectly for you.
And what does that personal learning lab look like? Is it just about your desk setup?
It's much broader than that. He breaks it down into components. There's your bridge, physical environment, yeah, making sure it meets your sensory needs, minimizes distractions, supports focus, but also your digital environment, how you configure your specific AI tools, apps, and workflows.
Ah, okay.
Then there's your social environment, intentionally choosing who you learn with, who you bounce ideas off, maybe even finding neurodiverse communities. And finally, your temporal environment, really understanding and respecting your own energy rhythms, your peak focus times, your need for breaks.
So it's a whole ecosystem.
Exactly.
Right.
It's about designing a holistic system that works with your brain's unique operating system, its natural patterns, instead of constantly fighting against them, creating a supportive ecosystem where your cognitive architecture can thrive.
Okay, so if we had to boil Augmented Minds down to the absolute must-remember ideas, what are the key takeaways you'd want someone listening right now to really grab onto?
All right, the big ones. First, and maybe the most important, reframe the narrative. You are not broken. Say again, you are not broken. Traditional systems often just aren't built for your kind of brain.
Okay, number one, reframe.
Second, embrace AI augmentation. See AI as a powerful cognitive co-pilot, a support tool, not something that replaces your unique intelligence.
Use AI as support, got it.
Third, work with your brain, not against it. Design your systems, your environment, your routines to leverage your natural cognitive patterns and strengths.
Work with your brain, makes sense.
And fourth, focus on those strengths. Build on what you naturally do well. Stop pouring all your energy into trying to fix perceived weaknesses. Instead, amplify what makes you powerful.
Those are really empowering takeaways. And for anyone listening who's thinking, okay, this resonates, I want to try something, what are maybe one or two immediate practical action steps they could take, like today?
Absolutely. Keep it simple to start. First, maybe try the 10-22 protocol for your very next important task or focused work session. Just see how that structured 20-minute sprint feels.
Okay, try 10-22.
Second, if you already use an AI assistant like ChatGPT or Claude, experiment with prompting it specifically for your neurotype. Tell it, say, I have ADHD and learn best through stories, explain this concept with an analogy, or I'm autistic and need clear, literal steps. See how the output changes.
Customize your AI prompts. Good one.
And finally, definitely give the 10 seconds to freedom technique a shot. The very next time you feel that impulsive urge or that decision paralysis creeping in, try the physical interrupt. Ask the question, take one small step. It can feel awkward at first, but it can be surprisingly effective.
Excellent. So it's clear Augmented Minds isn't just, another productivity book with generic tips.
Not at all.
It feels much more like a manifesto, really, for neurodiverse empowerment, and it cleverly weaves together the neuroscience, the lived experience, and these really practical AI applications.
I think its greatest strength is that authenticity, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's written by someone who clearly gets the neurodiverse experience from the inside out. He's not asking you to fundamentally change who you are.
No, he's showing you how to leverage who you are, but just better, more effectively, with the right tools and mindset.
Exactly. And that integration of AI as cognitive support feels incredibly timely and, frankly, quite revolutionary. Instead of the usual narrative of AI being a threat,
Right.
Saunders frames it as potentially the perfect complement, especially for neurodiverse minds. AI can handle those executive function tasks, the organizing, planning, structuring that might not come naturally, freeing up your unique cognitive resources for the complex problem-solving, the creative insights, the deep thinking that you truly excel at.
It's a partnership model.
Precisely. A human-AI partnership designed around your strengths.
So maybe the final thought for you listening is this. If you've ever felt like you were trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, maybe, just maybe, the problem isn't your shape. This deep dive and the book Augmented Minds is really about realizing you can actually build your own spaces, your own systems, your own ways of working, where your unique cognitive architecture isn't a liability but your greatest asset.
Well said.
And that wraps up our deep dive into Augmented Minds, the AI playbook for neurodiverse learning. Remember, you're not broken. You might just be running a different, and in many ways, a potentially more powerful cognitive operating system.